Hi, you guys, it's Mrs. Palmer. I just wanted to do a quick video for you to help you with this Alex assignment. Most of the things on this assignment should be a review, and so I don't think that you're going to have very much trouble. But just know that even though we're not in school together, I am still available. So as you go through the assignment, after you've watched the video, if you still have more questions, please email me and I am happy to help you. Okay, so I just pulled some sample problems that look just like those on your assignment. So question 1 says solve for V. Now you can see that this one right here is a two-step equation. We have 2 times V, we have subtract 5 equals negative 11. And remember, whenever you're solving an equation, you want to isolate the variable. You want to get the variable all by itself. And you always get rid of the addition or subtraction part first. And whatever you do on one side of an equation, you do the same thing on the other side. And then you get rid of the multiplication or division part. Okay, so if you have negative 11 equals 2 times V minus 5, you're first going to add 5 to both sides. So that would be negative 6 equals 2 times V. And then to get rid of the multiplication of 2, you divide by 2. So you know that V equals negative 3. Negative 3 is the solution of the equation because that's what makes it true. If you plug negative 3 in for the V in the irregular equation, the original equation, you can see that 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 subtract 5 is negative 11. Okay, so on question number 2, it says find the value of 9 times x minus 7, given that negative 2x and a subtract 8 equals 4. So the first thing that you need to do is solve this equation right here. Okay, you need to solve this equation. And then once you know the value of x, you can then find the value of this expression. So to solve this equation, negative 2 times x, subtract 8 equals 4. We're first going to add 8 to both sides. So negative 2 times x equals 12. And then to get rid of the multiplication of negative 2, we have to divide by negative 2 on both sides. So x equals negative 6. Once you know that the x equals negative 6, you can find out what 9 times x minus 7 is by plugging the negative 6 in for the x and then simplifying. So 9 times negative 6 is negative 54, and then a negative 54 subtract 7 is a negative 61. Okay, now on question number 3, it says solve for u. Notice that you have a number right next to a parentheses here, and inside the parentheses you have more than one term. And so anytime that you have a number next to a parentheses in algebra, that is implied multiplication. Because there is more than one term inside the parenthesis, we have to multiply both of the terms inside the parenthesis by the number that is out front. And that's called using the distributive property. So we would do 2 times 4u is 8u, 2 times 7 is 14, equal to 62. And then once we've distributed, this just leaves us with a two-step equation. So we subtract 14 from both sides. 8 times u equals 48. And then we divide by 8 on both sides. So u equals 6. So just remember, when you're solving an equation, if there's something that needs to be distributed, you take care of that first before you solve. Okay, question number 4 says solve for w. Notice on this one, there are two terms on the same side of the equation that are like terms. So before we solve this, we're going to simplify. We can combine the 5w and 3w because they both have a w to the first power. 5w plus 3w is 8w. Now we have 8 times w equals 16. So to solve for the w, all we have to do is get rid of the multiplication of 8 by dividing. So w equals 2. Okay, so on question number 5, solve for x. Notice on this one, we have 5 times x minus 7 in the numerator, and we have divided by negative 4 in the denominator. This right here is all one expression. And so before we can do anything with this, we have to get rid of the division of negative 4. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to multiply the left side by negative 4, which is going to cancel out the division of negative 4. And because we multiplied the left side by negative 4, we have to multiply the right side by negative 4. And now we are left with 5x minus 17 equals 28, which is just a two-step equation. So to solve this, we have 5 times x, subtract 17 equals 28. So we add 17 to both sides first. So 5 times x equals 45. Then we divide by 5, and x equals 9. That is our solution. 9 is what will make this equation true. Okay, on question number 6, this is an equation that needs to be simplified before we can solve, because on the right side of the equation, we have some like terms. Okay, we have this 3b, and we have this negative 8b. And before we move any further, we're going to simplify the right side, and we're going to make this negative 5b. When you add a 3 and a negative 8 together, you get negative 5b, and then plus 9 equals negative 31. Now it's just a two-step equation for us to solve. So we first get rid of the plus 9 by subtracting 9 on both sides. So negative 40 equals negative 5 times by b. Then we would divide by negative 5 on both sides. So v equals positive 8. Okay, now on question 7, what you have here is a proportion. Remember, when you have two fractions that equal to each other, we call that a proportion. So we have 2/5 equal to y subtract 2 divided by 3. These are both fractions. So one way we can solve a proportion is to cross multiply. So if I take 5 and I multiply by y minus 2, and I take 3 and I multiply by 2, that's cross multiplying. So 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times y minus 2 becomes 5y minus 10. And then from there, we can solve this two-step equation by adding 10 to both sides. So 16 equals 5 times y, and then dividing by 5. So 16 divided by 5 equals y. That would be our solution. Okay, now I'm going to take this same problem and I'm going to show you another way that you can do this. Okay, one of the ways that you can solve equations when they have fractions is by eliminating the fractions. And to do that, you find a common denominator for all of the fractions, and then you have to multiply every term in the equation by that common denominator. So for example, the common denominator between 5 and 3 is 15. So if I multiply this side by 15, this is really going to be 15 times 1. And if I multiply this side by 15, this is really going to be 15 over 1. Okay? Now, to multiply 15 over 1 times 2 over 5, we can cross reduce. So that becomes 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 2 becomes 6. The fraction is now gone. Okay? On the other side, we can cross reduce. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times y is 5y. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. So we end up getting the same thing. It's just another option for you when you're solving these equations. And in fact, there are some on your assignment, like question 8, where they are going to ask you to rewrite the equation so that it does not have fractions. Okay? So if we have 5 subtract 2/9 times by x equals 2/3, you could subtract 5 here and then divide by negative 2/9. That would work. Okay? But another thing that you could do is eliminate the fractions. The 5 would really be 5 over 1, and then you have a subtract 2/9 times by x, and then you have equals 2/3. Okay? So if you want to rewrite this so that it doesn't have any fractions, or you want to eliminate the fractions, what you do is you find the common denominator between all three of the fractions. So the common denominator between 1, 9, and 3 would be a 9. So if I times this by 9, remember you have to times everything by that common denominator. So every term in the equation gets multiplied by 9. So 5 times 9 is 45. When we take a negative 2x over 9 times 9, if we cross reduce, 9 goes into 9 once. 1 times negative 2x is negative 2x. That fraction is now gone. And then on the right side, 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. And that fraction is now gone. Okay? On these questions, it just says rewrite the equation so that it does not have fractions. So that's what that's going to look like. So remember, on questions like question 8, you find a common denominator for all of the fractions, and then you multiply every term in the equation by that common denominator, and that will eliminate your fractions. Okay? So I think that should set you up to know how to do all of the problems on your assignment. Most of you probably already do know how to do these. So if you're having any questions though, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to make you another video with more examples, or I'll try and do whatever I can do to help you. Hope you have a really great day. Talk to you soon.